Eugene, are you back with camera off? I guess not. Oh, now we all are here. Okay, so I'm gonna start the recording, then we're gonna go introduce our characters and answer the questions. Okay. Okay, should be live now. Hello everyone, welcome to Summer School Pigsmoke Edition. This is a Gauntlet game organized by the Gauntlet Community. It is covered by the Gauntlet Inclusivity Policy. We also are using a safety tools, lines and veils as a living document. And we also have the roll for your party setup so we can use the X card and script change. The game also has an open table policy, so at any point anyone needs to leave for any reason, it's already pretty acknowledged and we'll accommodate that. We are playing Pigsmoke, a game about magical academia, where at the most prestigious teaching university of magic in North America, we meet our cast of professors. We're gonna go around the table by the order on the character sheet, and everyone will introduce themselves and then introduce their teacher. So, Michael, why don't you start?
Yeah, I am playing Arthur Stenger. He is the Workhorse and works at the Department of Calling, Binding, and Sealing Away. Um, I imagine him being like sticking out in the way that he dresses a little bit, that he's not very formal. He dresses in, usually wears a t-shirt. Maybe if he's extra formal that day, he wears jeans. But I don't think there's anyone else who really wants his job because it's a lot of work, sealing demons away. Also, they turn to have a very short tenure, the teachers there, but he's been there for a while. Yeah, his classroom is chain spikes and bound demons, which says a lot about his work. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, I'll jump in next. Introduce so I'm Stentor Danielson. I'm going to be playing Claire MacDonell, and that's MacDonell. She gets very upset if you call her MacDonald with a D, and she is the Rockstar. She is actually originally from Australia, where she taught at the Wombat Hole School of Magic, and the administration there gently suggested that she might want to consider moving to a position at a different school because she was really taxing the departmental budget with all of the things that she was spending money on. And so she acquired this job at Pigsmoke. And so she's got piercing eyes, and her attitude is won the debate before it even began. So she likes to imagine that she's kind of a modern day Socrates who can, ask really probing questions that reveal the weaknesses in other people's arguments and help them to come around to understand the truth of whatever the topic is. In practice, that just means she's really good at figuring out what to say to someone to make them feel stupid so that they, don't have a good response ready, and she can feel like she won. And her style is carefully unfashionable. So she likes to have the image of, the professor who's too wrapped up in their deep thoughts to care about their appearance. But she actually puts a lot of effort into creating that impression. And her classroom is chaotic because she feels like, if the students are too dim to get it and to understand all of the important things she's telling them, it's not really her job to hold their hand and, spoon feed them things. And the dean has tried to explain that, no, actually, that is literally your job to teach these students when they don't understand things. But she doesn't seem to accept that. And she's got a +2 in charisma, but a -1 in research, and the move that you can publish even if you don't have anything new to publish a paper about. And she hasn't really published any new ideas in quite a few years, but she has a lot of papers out and one of the highest citation indexes in magical academia. So that's my character.
All right. I guess I'll go next. I am Eugene playing Hugo Aldrana. I'm the Albatross of the Elements Department. My elemental focus is Earth. I was at a university out west, but when I was completing a major research project, completely coincidentally, there was an earthquake that rendered the university or the college bankrupt. I had nothing to do with that. It was just a coincidence. I'm now out at Pigsmoke and have been trying to remind people of the importance of my work for some time. We'll see if I can get that across today. Let's see. I am teach outside, so I can be near to the element I hold dear. I wear all brown all the time. Brown jacket with a brown shirt, different color brown tie, brown corduroy pants, brown leather shoes. I do like to hear myself speak, and I think that that's important because, after all, one can communicate more successfully if one uses more words, which is why I have the grandiloquence move. And I do make it a habit to publish regularly, as we are all required to do, but most of the time I spend my time pointing out errors in others' work rather than producing any of my own thoughts. One could say I am an opinionated scholar, thus the move there. And when speaking, you'll find that I am always friendly in a way that my smiles don't quite reach my eyes, smarmy a bit, and that's Hugo Aldrana.
All right. Now, each of you will have a list of questions. So 3 questions from your role and 3 questions from your department. So you will ask and answer 3 of them. And we're gonna go in the same order, asking one each time until we have established your, let's call it, your burn bridges across academia. Let's start with Arthur Stenger again.
Yeah. What part of your job do you hate the most, and why do you keep doing it? So I'm asking other characters this, right?
Well, you ultimately you have to answer, but other people are.
Oh, sure. Well,
will give suggestions.
For Arthur, definitely the thing he hates the most is to teach. Students are completely incompetent, and this thing that he's doing is dangerous, and they shouldn't be allowed to do it. At least not until their senior year. But for some reason, the faculty has deemed that it's best to have this subject in the first year. which is of course completely unsafe. But yeah, so and I keep doing it because if I don't teach, then they are threatening to close my department. So, and I mean, it's an important subject, so we have to keep keeping the demons at bay. Am I doing all of them in one go?
No, let's go around one at a time.
So let's see. Let's go with which of your students is blatantly cheating and why are you letting it slide? Sorry, if I keep turning, it's because my cat's making trouble in the background. I have to keep shooing him away from some stuff that he's trying to get into. Okay, so which of your students is blatantly cheating? Why are you letting it slide? So we will call him Raphael Crane. And so he is, I'm letting it slide because he is citing my work in all of his work. He's published a paper that makes me look really good. And so I am very vulnerable to flattery.
All right, maybe I'll go next then. Let's see. Several of these kind of overlap. All right. Who has been burned by my methods before? So let's say my teaching assistant at my old college, I did destroy their research project in a lab accident, let's call it. They transferred when the university I was at previously closed, so they are a graduate student at Pigsmoke now. Let's come up with a name. How about Sarah Anderson? I destroyed her. She was working on a elemental project, the element of fire, and I may have destroyed it when doing my own experiment across the lab. I'm sure she doesn't hold any resentments at all because it's a very reasonable mistake to have been made. Mistakes were made.
Okay, let's go for the second round.
Who has roped you into most of the work on their last project? What is it and why are you helping? I think this is probably Hugo, actually. What could that project be? You're in elements.
Unearthing something, like an excavation. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I think maybe it was like this kind of excavation thing, and I think you told me that there might be this occult thing there, that there was like a portal or something, but that turned out it never was. I mean, well, I don't think you lied about it really. I guess you just read the signs the wrong way. Should have been more. I should have done more research.
That's fair. I thought I could attach my name to some work you did, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure I got an article of it anyway about how not to do readings of possible portals.
My second question, you owe someone a big favor. Who are they and what did they do for you? So I feel like this would be a good one to have one of the other PCs. But I'm happy to take a volunteer if one of you feels like you might have been able to do me a big favor.
I'm happy to give it to Arthur, the workhorse, more likely to do favors for people than me, the Albatross.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that could be.
Okay.
What was the favor I was doing?
So I was maybe to possibly tie it into one of my other questions, because one of my other ones is about the dean hating me. So maybe you've talked to the dean on my behalf and like put in a good word for me when I was getting in trouble.
Yeah. I think maybe actually like I think that you got to be like I kind of be got signed my name as a co-author of your article, so it got published because it was kind of I don't know controversial or something like that.
Okay, we could go that way too. Yeah.
I mean, it
maybe that
wouldn't let you publish, and then I was like, yeah, well, it's good.
Okay.
I wet for your work there.
All right, sounds good.
All right. I think I'm going to go next with what was the really stupid thing you did right before term started? And I'm going to say I was drunk and I agreed to serve on the personnel committee. Yeah, really, why did I do that?
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna.
I can elaborate on why that was stupid if you like, but otherwise, I think that's self-evident.
Yeah, that's very self-evident.
I mean, extra work that doesn't help you at all. I think I'm gonna go for something you can use here, dear MC. What omens have accompanied the start of the new academic year? I think that there has. I think maybe it's related to like this this finding that we did together with Hugo. There was like this. There's been a lot of things being strange with how about tracking the demons. I was pretty sure that this project would yield me a portal, so I could it's been in the text and stuff, but it wasn't there, and I think also that there has been like pretty quiet from like the other side, and I am a little bit worried about it because the demons being quiet is usually not a good thing.
I'm going with the dean hates you personally, and wants you to fail. Why? And so I think that last year, so I was on the curriculum committee, and I pushed through some changes to the curriculum that were mostly aimed at making my teaching schedule more convenient for me. So that I didn't have to teach some of the like lower level like service classes and stuff that I didn't enjoy teaching. And so I got these changes through. Those changes got us in trouble with our accreditors because we were no longer meeting our student learning outcomes. but I managed to kind of sweet talk the accreditors into letting it slide, and the dean is upset because he was hoping I was kind of shooting myself in the foot there, and was going to kind of take myself down, and then I didn't. And so our dean is a little upset that I managed to get myself out of that predicament.
So, follow-up question. Were you responsible to changing CABCA from a second-year course to a first-year course?
So I'm sorry, you cut out for a second there. I missed most of that question.
So were you responsible for changing CABSCA from a second-year course to a first-year course, and now Professor Stenger has to deal with unprepared students?
That sounds good, yes. But yeah. So I think I only want to teach the upper level courses where we get deep into my research area. And so I managed to work it so that all of the like the first year courses and stuff have to be taught by other folks.
All right. So I think for my third one, I'll take which recent high-profile failure did you mistakenly attach yourself to? I think, if you'll allow me this, the previous dean had launched a big initiative called Pigsmoke 2020. And in that, it was this kind of new vision for the college, full of all sorts of changes. And I thought, well, I just be a co-signer. And then when it, I can claim that I had a big part in doing this, reap some rewards for very little work. But it's failed spectacularly because the dean was, let's say, caught guilty of, misappropriation of funds. And so I now look bad because I was like an early adopter of this language.
A lot of bleed here. Okay, now we're gonna go around and establish our department. So if you go to the page 81, it has each department will have a series of questions which establish who is the head of the department, what is the main issue with the department, and how and what are the department facilities. So we're gonna, again, same order. First, let's see how is the department of culling and binding. So you have suggestions, or you can come up with your own answers.
Let's see if I can manage to find this here.
Page 86.
86.
Yeah.
Kabsa. Right. Yeah, I think the head of the department is someone who insists they're actually the devil, but obviously isn't.
Okay, it's a very good one.
Yeah, I think the key problem the department is facing is demons. Again, you think people would learn after the first few times. I mean, honestly, like putting this into school curriculum is just helping people making deals with demons and not the other way around. The department building is yeah, let's see. Yeah, cool. I think I'm gonna go with the third one here. Constructed and maintained by half a dozen bound entities. They make whatever structure changes CAB, SCA faculty require, but they also hate you. So be wary of surprises and loopholes in the letter of your instructions.
I guess that's why they keep summoning demons. They makeshift construction worker.
Yeah.
Okay, next we're gonna see what the deal is with alchemy.
So, the head of the department is hell-bent on imposing some genuine scientific method on this mess of mysticism and hand-waving. Are you with them or against them? Definitely against them. In fact, that's been the topic of a number of papers that I've published about the inappropriateness of the so-called scientific method to research in the field of alchemy. The key problem facing the department is, I'll go with disposal. A lot of alchemical processes create waste, various levels of nasty, poisonous, and or mutagenic ooze. Dumping it into the sewers isn't going to cut it for much longer, but no one seems to have a good plan for what else to do with it. And the department building is, I'm going to say, a garish and ostentatious display of wealth. And that was part of why I took this job at Pigsmoke, was that the department building impressed me, because I was like, all right, this department's got plenty of money. They're not going to be on my case about all of my expense requests and so forth. Turns out that's mostly a facade, and the department's just as strapped for money as any other, but they don't look it.
All right. Well, the Department of Elements. I'm going to say that the head of the department is an exemplar of my own element. Deeply invested in this whole War of the Elements thing, but constantly using me as a disposable pawn in their schemes. Yeah, so that would be Professor... I don't know. Professor Fernandez, right, is also an Earth element expert.
Okay, so an expert. I was going to ask if it is not literally some elemental creature.
Oh no, I was thinking of the second option. I could go with an honest to god elemental. That's fun. Like this guy, it's like this giant stony.
No, let's go with Professor Fernandez, that is obsessed with proving that art is the best element and demands the best from the representatives of the best element.
Right. So the key problem facing the department, however, is that students just aren't interested in elementalism anymore. It lacks practical application, they say, and then swan off to study alchemy or mind bending or binding. And, well, the budget's determined by number of students, so that's not good. So we've got to revamp our image to show everyone that elementalism still has a place in the 21st century. You mentioned bleed before. All right, so the department building is several different buildings mashed together, knocked through and repurposed over the decades into a maze of tiny rooms, dead-end corridors, and inadvertently secret doors. People and things get lost in there all the time. Yes, then that's because they refuse to fund new facilities for us, I think. Until we get our enrollments up, clearly.
Yes, because crowded classrooms, even with few students, is what is very attractive when people are looking around. Next, we're gonna be making the dean. Now, each of us is going to take turns establishing something about the dean. So in page 7980, we can pick different things about the dean. And again, we're going to go on the same order. So we're going to start with Michael again. So what is the dean's name?
think I'm gonna say Eve Kowalski.
Next, what is the dean's nature?
Okay, so the dean's nature is, I mean, certainly at least from my character's point of view, an awful person outsourcing life's difficulties to you.
And what does the dean care about?
The reputation of the school, clearly.
And what does the dean want?
Yeah, to make the students or some subset of them worthy.
That's not ominous at all. What is the dean's vision for Pigsmoke?
Something wildly unrealistic, even at America's foremost school of sorcery.
And finally, the dean cannot resist.
This is interesting. Promises, I'm going to say.
That sounds useful to know. Okay. Now we're gonna go around for the first week of the fall semester. And you have a very brief but much needed respite from academia, or at least most of you did. And we start with Arthur Stenger leaving home, and they've been working even before the semester started, and they have been neglecting someone. Who is it?
I think probably my partner, which I don't get to see that often because I'm mostly at work. But we were going to go for a little trip this holiday, but then I had to change the curriculum because the dean said it didn't fulfill the learning requirements. I took those out because first graders clearly are not ready for summoning demons. But the dean says so.
So, your partner, what is their name?
Alex.
So, Alex is not an academic. So, what is the thing that baffles Alex the most about your professional life that makes utterly no sense for them?
I think how little logic is in the running of academic institution. At least from what I'm telling him. I mean, even he, who is not an expert in binding and demons, understands that you shouldn't have students summoning demons in their first semester.
Do you live with Alex, or you are still struggling on your small apartment?
Yeah, I think we're living together. Still a small apartment, though, relatively speaking.
Mm-hmm. So you notice that Alex is being special attentive for, well, you should be in the doghouse. You know that you have not been the best this vacation, but you notice that they are being unusually supportive. That they even made lunch for you, and they even scheduled that you don't have to worry that they are taking over. That you should have a lot of free times this week. You know that this usually means that bad news are coming. Do you pry into that, or you dismiss it as nothing and you deal with it when it happens?
I think it's a bit in between. Like I definitely like notice and then just decide to not pry into it to hopefully, you know. I mean, it's like kind of like a denial thing here where I'm just like, no, I'm just gonna hope that this is nothing, even though I know it is something coming here.
So, as you leave the house, how do you go with to Pigsmoke?
Yeah, I think I bike actually.
Hmm. So, we get to another of our teachers, and we see uh, the new office that Professor MacDonell has. What what she did to get this fancy new office from the department head of Alchemy, and is she enjoying it, or it's something that was forced upon her?
I think the latter is going to be going to make things more interesting. Um, so I think this is the sort of the biggest and fanciest looking office, but it is right next door to the storage closet where we've been stocking away all of the waste products that our research has been generating, that the like health and safety department has told us we're no longer allowed to just flush down the drains because it created this haunted swamp basically next door to the building, and so we've been kind of storing it there for now. And you know, it smells and it makes strange noises, and so I took this office, or I got kind of pushed into taking this office in kind of exchange for you know, them looking the other way about some of my expense reports, and I figured it's all right because, like, you know, if a reporter comes to do a profile on me for the magical equivalent of the New York Times, they'll take some nice photos of me in this nice looking office, and you can't smell it through the newspaper. So it'll be all right, but it's a little unpleasant to work in there sometimes, especially if someone has just disposed of some new materials.
And within the office itself, what is obnoxiously scientific, or at least it tries to create this impression of sterility and modernity that you absolutely hate? You cannot wait to throw it out of the window.
Mm-hmm. So the department has a fixed schedule of computer upgrades. And so when I came in, I brought my own computer with me because my sort of tenure line had this fixed time when there would be a new computer. And so they didn't have one for me. So I brought my own computer from my previous job that was a much older model, but I kind of loved all of its little quirks. But then they forcibly upgraded me to this fancy new computer that has like the latest version of Windows on it, and it's just so sterile, and I don't know where all the menus are anymore. But they literally threw out my old computer after transferring my files, because the IT department is very rigid about, we need to upgrade this because we no longer support the old version, and blah, blah, blah. And I had some fights with them that I unfortunately lost.
Yeah, as you're open with Dread, this terrifying computer, and you open your email, you see the flood of notifications about the status of the upgrade from the server farm, from the old crystal and attuned copper model to new modern hard drives, and it has been doing all of the sorts of problems with the research previously stored, and it's only people asking where their data is and whatnot. And then you see an email for Humbert Hall from your old university. And it seems to be from one of your former students there. And it is just, have you seen this yet? And it has a link to a paper from a student that was working under your mentor before, and not only has some of your scooped data on it, it also does not cite any of your previous work.
Yes, I read through this very carefully, and do a search on it to try to make sure that I'm not missing something. Getting kind of increasingly furious, and so I'm going to say this is a student that I had high hopes for, and that I had kind of I thought I had a positive relationship. So my first inclination is actually to blame the journal editors. That I bet these editors, because I know how journal editors and anonymous reviewers are always making ridiculous demands of, you have to change this, you have to change this. It's part of why I publish a lot of my stuff in non-peer-reviewed journals, because they don't make me change all these things. And my working theory right now is that the journal editor and or one of the reviewers had some sort of vendetta. They had it out for me. They don't like how I'm shaking things up in the discipline, and they made the student remove my the citations to my work, claimed it wasn't relevant or wasn't well supported or something. So I think I'm actually going to write a very, very angry letter to the journal editor, and rather than doing it on this newfangled computer here, I am going to actually handwrite this letter and give it to a messenger bird. I don't know what kind of birds we use for messages here in America. They wouldn't let me bring my kookaburra with me because they claimed it might be some sort of biohazard to bring live animals across the border. But I'm going to write up this scathing letter to the journal editor and send it off.
So let's go with the skate roll then, which is going to be a compulsion move. And
okay.
Because of your position, you don't have disadvantage when you skate, the poor editor of the journal. So you're going to roll plus charisma to give them a piece of your mind.
Okay. D6 and my charisma is 2. So, okay, so that adds up to an 11.
Okay, so Okay. Oh, they choose. Okay. So because they cannot do the first two, they give you the third one. They give you something they think you want, and an intern writes an email back to you on behalf of the editor, apologizing that they were not aware of the circumstances, and they are honored to have someone of your academic track to pay attention to their publication, and they offer to publish you on the next issue a letter on the subject and on the previous research on the subject, and where exactly in its context the new data falls on. And the only thing that they ask is that you get that letter to them before the next issue.
Okay. Yeah, so when I get this back, I'm triumphant, and I sort of yell loud enough to be heard over some of this gurgling noises coming from next door, and I post it up on my corkboard to remind me to finish writing this thing, and I'm already kind of in my head going through all the, I'm good at the kind of the academic writing where it looks really reserved on the surface, but you read it and you're like, oh, these people really hate each other. That style of writing. I fancy myself pretty good at that, so I'm starting to put together how I'm going to write this response paper that they'll publish.
So we get to the worst thing imaginable in Pigsmoke, even more horrifying than the drain of the alchemy department, even more horrifying than the labyrinth, which they call the elemental department, even more terrifying that the open disruption gate to the abyss from which demons are said to come. We get to the classroom that has been assigned as the meeting place for the personnel committee, and we see the long-suffering face of Hugo Aldrana as he's in this meeting with all these department heads, which are just too busy with their pettiness and are leaving the other professors to actually do the work to appraise all the new hires that they're going to have this semester and to which classes they gonna assign. Now, you are not the only person on that department, not only the only person of your department on the personnel committee. Sarah Anderson is also there. And as you are going through that, there is a name among the possible hires that for some reason you find quite interesting that they are applying for Pigsmoke. Who is it?
Okay. So I'm flipping through the applications. Yes. Yes. And then I'll say if I encounter an application from Sylvain Leduc at University, the Pigsmoke's sister college in France, looking to transfer over, perhaps, and I'm intrigued by this application.
Can you write the name on chat?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. And you can see that Sarah Anderson noticed that you are interested on that name, and they don't seem to react to it, but they seem to react to the fact that you are pleased with that. And they say, well, perhaps we should first, to maximize the utility of our resources, to first assign classes to the staff that we have at hand. Then we should hire on the basis of which departments need more staff. And you can see that this is a pretty transparent way to block new hires for the Department of Elements, because they don't have that many students. So pretty much very few teachers have to do actual classes. So you can always find someone to drop a few classes on. And this would usually make Professor Fernandez very upset, but they are currently arguing with the devil in person over some stupid details about who will get to attach to their department, the now abandoned Department of Arcane Fiscal Responsibility. And but people seem to be thinking that she's making an appeal to reason and to responsible hiring practices. And that would mean that there will be no new hires for Elements if she gets her way. And you love new hires because you can pretend that you are the one that makes everything work here, and you get to exploit them. This cannot do.
So I'll say, well, that's very interesting, Ms. Anderson, but lest we forget, let me remind you what the founder of Pigsmoke once said, and then I'll launch into this kind of extended monologue exploring the concepts that were laid out and the dictates laid out in the founding document. And after going on for some time, I'll spare you all the actual role play of that. I conclude, and so it's obvious that we have built right into the mission statement of this venerable institution the commitment to evaluating each applicant on their own merits, irregardless of our particular bureaucratic and curricular needs. So I'm thinking of, yeah.
So that's a grandiloquence for sure, no?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so go ahead.
Fill the room with smoke here. All right. So let's see. Grandiloquence is a charisma. I took a +1 on that. So there.
So what did you get?
That looks like an 8.
Okay, so if you hit, you're gonna get a small favor. So what are you hoping to gain from this situation, or more exactly from Sylvain Leduc?
4 from? Did you say the Sylvain?
What you want to gain from this situation?
Okay, so yeah, I would like to convince I'd like to not consider curricular needs first, right? So I'd like to try to convince the others to at least look at the applications first before assigning classes out of some sort of sense of fairness or something.
And you go with all that, and you can see that Professor Anderson is just exhausted by the time you finish up speaking. And then in her confusion, she thinks, well, I guess then you will not mind making these personal interviews then. And she does not realize that she just made you interview Sylvain Leduc, which was kind of what you wanted all along. And she has this smug smile, as if she's just got one over you. well, and she'll later realize once she actually gets some coffee how much of an idiot she was.
Excellent. I concur with her assessment, clearly.
Next, we go back to Professor Stenger, and we see the benefits of his neglect. We see his workspace filled with bound creatures and very careful seals, all very proper. No student has ever even laid their eyes here. And the reason why he was so distant during summer is that he made a major breakthrough. There is a project which he cannot wait to test, and he is looking forward for it. What is it that he's starting to research?
I think it is like a binding of a demon of lust. Apparently, there is some text that I researched that says something about like points towards some kind of weakness that this demon has that might make me able to trick it into like a favorable binding. And like looking and cross-referencing things during the summer has got me quite close to understanding what this might be. And that would be a pretty like big breakthrough also for the school, because demons of lust, they're pretty popular.
So, how come MacDonell learned about what he has been doing during the summer? Because I don't think MacDonell was particularly working during their free time. But how did she find out what Professor Stenger was been doing this summer?
So I think that she at one point was getting so tired of the smells and sounds coming from next door to her office that she started just kind of roaming all of the buildings, trying to see if she could come up with an alternative disposal location for some of this stuff. And she just happened to wander by Dr. Stenger's office or lab while he was working on this stuff, and kind of, watched for a little while discreetly.
Now, because we know that MacDonell has this information, and she knows exactly what Professor Stenger is working on, how the data that the other students scooped from you, how your previous work, you feel, relates in some way to whatever material weakness Stenger is trying to use in a novel binding of lust demons. Because you have the feeling that there's something related, and you can actually use your words and twisting Stenger's data to support your purposes.
Right. So this is now requiring me to think a lot more about the details of what my research is actually about.
It does not have to be your immediate research, because I'm kind of assuming that you are not producing anything worthwhile. It's more the actual research work that you once did and was stolen from you, as you are concerned. And while we are that, if you want to establish the name of the former student of your mentor that stole your data,
Right. Let's see. Actually, could I hear a little more about this research that I'm overhearing, like peeking in on, and then I should be able to,
Yeah,
and then I can like insert into it.
yeah, Stenger, why don't you
What
tell
are the details of what's being done here?
yeah, what materials you think might be used as powerful foci for this binding?
I don't know. I think what would be of interest for a demon of lust. I don't. I think. I guess that is maybe what I'm trying to find out. I can imagine it being maybe something that's not really that advanced. Some kind of pretty mundane concoction, really, that is used. That has like old traditions in the magical society, but I don't have like a. I don't think I have like an idea for what exactly it could be.
So maybe something that is pretty rare, but one of your old actual alchemical work involved the creation of or the transmutation of, and it's a poorly described phenomena.
So maybe to hit the Australian theme for my character more, maybe it uses like bones from some extinct Australian animals. Like there were the wombats the size of a car and stuff that used to live there in like the Ice Age. So maybe it involves like ground up giant wombat bones or something. And so I've been doing some work on that while I was down under. And that's maybe what really catches my attention and makes me like spend more time, because normally I wouldn't pay that much attention to other people's research. But I recognize that material, and that I had like maybe documented the process for processing these bones when they get excavated.
So the data that was stolen, was it related to proper handling of fossils as arcane component?
Yeah, let's say that, because depending on how you handle them, it may or may not work right for certain magical applications. If you don't, and I'm thinking now about how in real archaeology you have to very carefully handle the samples, or else you contaminate them and you can't do carbon dating on them and stuff. And I think the same thing applies to using fossils in magic. That if you don't handle them correctly, they won't be effective in certain magical applications. And so I had put together some data on the handling process for certain sorts of applications.
I can certainly see how someone can make a career of not actually getting something new and writing on earlier work from that. And if you get a good protocol paper, which you did, you're going to get all the citations.
Right. Yeah. Everybody who works with these fossils now has to cite my paper.
And you get that vibe that you can actually reinforce, actually fly this right, and so a complete new use for fossils in binding, which is something that, as far as you know, nobody really manage. I mean, most of the people that get their hands on that expensive and unique material, they don't use it on binding, but it's novel and it actually would context a lot of the assumptions that Sunday dared to steal from you. I mean, yeah, they are wrong conclusions. You know that because you knew that they were wrong when you published them first time, but they are your wrong conclusions. God damn it. So you, for once, you want to actually throw facts in this debate. And Stenger seems to be ready to stumble into some powerful facts. So, how do you get as a co-author in Stenger's project?
So I think that so I'm trying to decide whether I want to just straight up waltz into his lab, or if I want to be a little more subtle and like send him an email with some tips and pretend that I didn't see anything and just like, oh, are you working on that? Oh, well, trying to decide which is a more, you know what, for the drama of it, I think I will just walk right into the lab. So after observing enough to see what he's working on, I'll just, you know, walk straight in and, you know, sit myself down by the lab table where he's working on his stuff. Arthur, how's it going? And kind of pick up one of the, like, I'm imagining the like fossils come in like packages from the magical supply company, and I'm picking up and I'm looking at it. So like, oh, I didn't know you were working with fossil materials recently. Have you read my paper from 2013 on this?
You're muted, Michael.
Oh, careful with that. Those are expensive. Can you please put them down?
Oh, well, I mean, you must have filed a pretty good expense report to get this many of these bones. Is your department chair is signing off on a lot of stuff, and my chair lately won't sign off on anything that doesn't have a microchip in it.
Oh, well, I had to do some things to get this stuff, but you were talking about an article?
Yeah. Here, let me see if I can find it, and I like grab your computer screen and start typing, and I pull it up on the article, the university's article database, and point it out to you, and start explaining the content of the article about, you know, what to do with these bones.
This is not even peer reviewed, is it? Well, anyway, I guess it's kind of interesting, but what does that have to do with? From Australia, huh? Well, you think this is you stand behind this? What this article for 2013 still what it says still?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, it's been cited, you know, 463 times. I point out on the, you know, the database shows the citation indexes and stuff. I mean, this is foundational work. You really, if you're not citing this in your paper, I know a lot of editors that would just just toss your submission right out for that.
I think.
So I think I'm like trying to smooth talk you an angle for getting like co-author credit on your work. Like I'll kind of offering to help you with the bone processing aspect if I can get credit on your paper here.
Well, I'm going to look into it. If this really turns out to be, then I'll definitely give you some credit. This is pretty interesting. It might be the thing I've been looking for.
Yeah, just send me a message if you run into any problems. I'm happy to help. I can show you a little bit of my unpublished data that had to get cut for length there. I think it'll help you out there. I think that I set the bones that I've been messing around with back down on the lab table and then head out.
So we get back to Hugo Aldrana, which is now at the only good part about the personal committee meeting, is because those things always end up going late. So you don't actually go to the cafeteria, and the dean has to treat you to a nice lunch alongside all of the heads of the department. And as you are there eating some very nice expensive meal, probably some kind of magical beast, you get the feeling of what is going on among the other departments. So why don't you roll me a small incestuous world, which will be roll plus nothing. Yes.
Roll plus nothing. Okay. Well, that's easy. 10.
Okay, so you get one of these choices.
How about I get wind of some news which will affect my department?
Oh. So you're sat in the same table as some annoying people that you usually don't deal with from the Department of Life and Death. And one of them is Baron Heidler, a vegan sports coach that is all about modernizing life and death for the 21st century. It's not only about reanimating corpses, but making sure that when you die and you wanted to become an undead creature, you have the healthiest corpse to reanimate. So take very good care about these. And you try this out, and you should count these calories, and you should be sure that you're getting this time of sleep every day. It's a very obnoxious person that you usually struggle hard to avoid. And on the other side, there is one person that game recognizes game, and you know that they are such a big albatross as you are, or actually even more, because they've been doing it past life. Because you see Tyan de Ramos, which is a lich that has been a lich in the Department of Life and Death for quite a long time. Some say even before Pigsmoke was built. And they seem to be going along with the boring conversation of Baron Adler. And you see a shine on his eyes that you recognize as if when someone like you sees an opportunity, and for once you actually pay attention. And Barton goes, well, you know how they have been giving extra stipend for modernizing and whatnot. like the previous dean did with that messy thing of Pigsmoke 2020. They are actually giving stipends for cross department cross department projects, because they say that they are all the rage to get investors interested, and they want to get all these nice industry partnerships to give all the students consulting jobs. And you can hear the dead laughter of well, good luck getting someone to cooperate with life and death. We are problem with funding, especially in terms of what the kids and the investors are on it. Oh, speak for yourself. You know who I pity about? These poor bastards on the Department of Elements. They are seen as obsolete, that they cannot collaborate with others. So they'll probably just miss on all these opportunities. Indeed, perhaps we should look ourselves into possible partners. And he looks at immediately the first person closer that is from another department, which is you. But then he recognizes, oh, it's you. And then immediately jumps to the next person, trying to smuzz in. And he's talking about some new historian from the Department of Artifacts that they have no knowledge about, because they never publish anything that you could smooth in. But yeah, you learn that the dean is giving a lot of support of finance for interdepartmental projects. So if you could get someone that has a nice, juicy project, easily involving already two other departments, you will be set. So what do you do to capitalize on this information?
All right. Well, I hearing this, I look at Barton Hedler, was his name, and the fitness life guy, right?
Yeah.
And I look at him and I say, I guess an important element of your life plan, health plan there is good nutrition. Yeah. Well, perhaps, a central part of producing healthy food is having proper soil conditions. You need healthy earth. So have you considered an interdepartmental project between life and death and the elements that can concern the proper production of food for your subjects? That's something I know a little bit about.
Oh, that sounds excellent. But I already have a project with Alchemy. That's how I learned about this. I heard that they have all the sort of transmutations, so they can transmutate the nutrients on useless compounds on corrupted and barren soils right into proper nutrients, and they assure that they will have a test garden up and running in a few months.
Do you think that so you'd prefer to have artificially transmuted nutrients rather than naturally produced?
Well, it seems. I think you got me there. That will be very hard to sell, especially on investors. We all know how this green lifestyle is all that's really big about the investors with actual money. I think the dean would be pleased if we could get a natural selection. Maybe I should approach para-veterinary medicine for this.
Well, I'd like to think we could maybe form a tri-departmental team here to investigate this, which would, let's face it, maximize the stipend that we could access, wouldn't it?
That would be delightful. Now, the only thing missing, and he looks at Tien, but it's like the sparkles in the leech's eyes, they just fade. Don't ask me. I told you, it's impossible to find it anymore. Since the incident with the T-Rex in Chicago, our department is not allowed to get those kinds of things anymore. Yeah, there is a big thing about going full natural and going full paleo. So something involved getting the properties of this ancient soil and using fossils as the focus for that would really sell. I'm not even talking papers here, I'm talking startup money here. We could really get it rolling, but I have no idea who even has access to fossils anymore. They don't let us play anymore with them.
Well, that's a shame. Maybe I'll look into around the college to see if anybody has expertise on that.
Yeah, why don't you send me an email once you get the project rolling? I really want to see what you have in mind. And he looks at his fit brand. Well, I don't have anything. I cannot do it this week, but how about next week? I have a meeting with some paraveterinary people about the classes and how we're going to divide the students. So I'll bring the topic to them if you already have a project running. How about that?
Sounds good. It'll be up and running by then, I'm sure.
That's perfect. And he gets up. Well, I'm late. I should run some laps before next class.
Make sure you get enough steps. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'll start searching for who the heck knows anything about fossils, which obviously I don't.
Yeah. How are you going to do that?
Well, I trust that if there's an expert on fossils at the university, they've advertised themselves as such. So clearly, searching faculty profiles for papers with high citation indexes that have faculty here at Pigsmoke on the author list, that sort of thing. Spend a little time on the or maybe I'll assign it to my grad student, my teaching assistant, to do the research.
Yeah, 5 minutes later, your one of your grad students sends you an email, and you recognize one of the names as a professor here at Alchemy.
Like, ooh, Alchemy. Gonna have to. All right, see if I can't work that in my favor. I'll write up an email, just briefly describing, the project concept, and of course mentioning the stipend program that the dean has put into place as motivation. And I'll even throw in the the additional incentive that no new research would be required on his part. Just the inclusion of his name and use of his current work, and then he could then share in the stipend.
So, Claire, how do you react to this email that is coming apparently out of nowhere?
Yeah. So I probably get this when I'm back in my office working on that response paper for that journal. And, I hear the little ding of the new email coming in, and I go and I almost just delete it, because I had also gotten a bunch of emails about events going on at the university that they want you to go to, and reminders of this or that policy about, you have to put this language in your syllabus and you have to submit this form by this date and stuff. And I'm just deleting all those, and I almost delete this message from Hugo, but there's something in the subject line about fossils that makes me pause just long enough to realize that this might not be spam. And so I open it up and I read it, and I'm definitely intrigued, particularly the money attached to it, because as I was saying earlier, my department chair has gotten a little stingy about signing purchase requests, especially if they don't involve anything high tech. And my procedures that I've outlined are very old school, don't use a lot of fancy equipment, and in fact that's kind of one of the issues that I write about a lot in my publications, is about the problems that arise in research when people rely too heavily on computers to do too much of the work for them, and don't get really up close and personal with their research materials, and learn the ins and outs of their individual fossils by hand grinding them and stuff like that. But so the opportunity to have a different department paying for things is definitely intriguing. And so I write back, trying to set up a time to meet, which I don't know if there's a move for that, but I know that is a major process. And so I list out, I would be available this time or this time or this time. Give kind of a list and send it back.
Yeah, that does not need a move. It's just the setup of a scene that will happen later this week. And we go back to Arthur. So, Arthur, the topic of a demon of lust did not come to you by accident. One of the many demons that have been sealed in the building, another of the awful ideas of the old dean was that it will be a great idea to bind to the building a lust demon and use it to attenuate the hormonal rages of the students so that they will be less distracted, and then the school will be able to increase the productivity. The problem is that the binding used, it is a kind of binding that requires you use items that it was before peer-reviewed sorcery, so the exact protocol does not work, and any attempts to replicate the binding have been unsuccessful. The problem is, it is a known fact that the binds of this demon are getting weaker every year. And the devil is very upset because they cannot tempt people by appealing to their lust if they are lusts all the time, and they are able to sate their lusts without even feeling guilty. There's no sin there. And without sin, there's nothing for him. So the devil has an ongoing call for people that are able to solve this process, and is offering them a tenure track. So finally, you could show Alex that Academy is a viable career choice, and that you'll be able to support your family with this, and you both would have a long, happy life together. If you get that trainer, and that's why you have been going for these demons of lust. So, what is the nature of this lust demon bound to the building?
I think it is like a trapping that keeps it out, but it's in like inside the building, so it's in a physical space in the basement that is not that is in this binding not defined as the school, but it has to keep out of the school, which is all the way around it, so it's just trapped in there. Yes, that's how it is. It's really like a small jail for it.
So you have been able to procure a book, an ancient 15th century book on this demon. And what does it call it?
It calls it libidy.
So, what was the great catastrophe that happened the last time Liberty was summoned before it was permanently bound to Pigsmoke?
There was a student that summoned it. Actually, a student of what was the equivalent of the class I am doing right now. That summoned this demon to make a girl fall in love with them. But unfortunately, it had a rather different effect, where everyone would start acting very obsessively about the person of their romantic interest. Very obsessively. There might have been life lost, but we don't really have accurate historical records of this.
Mm-hmm. So, as you are working late, as usual, as the workers, you think back at the weird encounter with Professor MacDonell. So, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I don't know. It's a little bit strange that they would, but I mean, if it checks out, I'm gonna have to research this article to see if it could be. I'm willing to grasp at anything to find like the missing ingredient. I've been working on it all summer and I haven't found it. So if even I don't normally look to Professor MacDonell for reliable information, but I think this might be something I could use. And I mean, getting her a citation is not a problem.
And she owes you a favor. And how do you feel about that? Do you feel that she's kind of boozing what your willingness to work with her, or in a way this is an attempt of her to reaching out and paying back? How do you feel about that?
I mean, I gotta assume good intentions, right? I think I don't know. It seems to me that Claire seems to be a nice enough person. I get along with her, so I'm sure it's fine. I'm not sure why anyone would try to trick me into something like that. Otherwise, I mean, that's just mean, right?
Yeah. Uh, as you are reflecting about the events of the first day of the fall semester, you realize that you barely did any work in preparing the classes, and you are already expected to start giving some this week. Does Professor Stenger try to drop these on someone else?
Yeah, my research assistant, teaching assistant.
You actually don't start with the teaching assistants. You need to get an advance for that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no. Okay, I guess then.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah. I guess then that I don't. I mean, I've done this before. It's not. I need to get finished with this research before the semester starts because I can't get any break when the students arrive. So I think I'm gonna look into this this article and see if this could be the missing ingredient that I lack for my binding.
Okay, so that will be a move that advances time for the next week. So before we resolve that, let's see the meeting between Hugo and Claire. So we get to another day of the week where they meet to talk about the possibilities of a new project involving fossils. So who is setting up the meeting?
Is Claire? Did Claire set the time and place, or?
I think that we would be probably meeting at Hugo's office because Claire's can be a little unpleasant, and she doesn't want to put off anyone in this collaboration if it's there's some strange smells during the meeting.
Right. All right. Well, then in order to arrive at Hugo's office, Claire has to kind of wind her way through this Byzantine mishmash of buildings, hallways, dead ends, and secret doors. And eventually you'll find tucked in a corner, Hugo's office door for sure.
Okay. Yeah. And so she strides up to the door and gives it a good knock.
You hear the sound of sudden, like a kind of crashing sound suddenly inside, and then the door opens, and there's like a big pile of rubble at one end of the office, and then Hugo standing there wearing a brown blazer with a brown shirt and a brown tie and brown corduroy pants with brown shoes, and he, yes, Claire, thanks for making time. Here, come in. Hold on. Dumps some rubble off of a chair and slides it over and sits at his office desk chair. I'd say, yes, thanks for coming. So, as I said in the email, I was speaking to Barton Hedler in Life and Death, and he proposed this. We came up with the idea of an interdepartmental project to capitalize on the dean's new stipend program for rewarding interdisciplinary research, and he is very fixated on health and nutrition. And I proposed, that he would be well off involving the element of earth in his agricultural research. And he proposed that he and his department wanted to involve paleo approaches, so using ancient earth and bone to fertilize the earth, and that means we need a fossil expert on the team. I know you'd already.
I mean that sounds like a pretty reasonable application of some of the work I've done on Australian megafaunal fossils. Have you seen my paper from 2013? And I pull out this time I came prepared, so I've got my briefcase with me, and I pull out a copy of it and hand it to you. And sort of start pointing out the one section that I think is relevant to this research idea.
So Hugo takes the paper and does this. He's looking at you, nods, doesn't look at the paper, and then sets it on his desk. It's like, yes, that's right. I had a student summarize your abstract for me. Just to be clear, I see myself as a facilitator in this project, right? I'm connecting you with the life and death people. Actually, more precisely, your name and research with the life and death people, so that they can go about doing their agricultural research. I'll go in and make sure that the earth is pure, and then they'll. I'm envisioning them doing the heavy lifting here. I don't actually need to know much about the fossils at all. That's their department and yours. So yes, like I said, I'm more of an idea man here on this project.
Yeah, I think Claire is a little little insulted that he doesn't want to learn more about the fossils, but she also definitely sees the appeal of the life and death department doing most of the heavy lifting on this work, and she'll get her name attached to it. So yes, I think this sounds like an excellent opportunity for collaboration and especially sharing of resources between departments. It's good when the department is really invested in a particular project and willing to put some real cash behind it like that. So who should I be speaking with in the life and death department?
Yes, it was Professor Barton Hedler. I notified, next week he's going to be going to his department to set all this up, and they would be joining this team that we're putting together here, and then they would be conducting the actual nutritional study. So have already spoken to him a few days ago. If you want to shoot him an email, that would be fine. Otherwise, I can speak on your behalf. Maybe you should. That would be, because then
I'll speak to him. Yeah, definitely.
I already have so many emails to write.
Yeah. Certainly.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to. I'll have my student summarize the rest of that paper for me and give me the bullet points.
She's clearly uncomfortable with the idea of people just reading a summary of her work. That seems that she's not going to say anything about it just yet, but I think it's obvious from her facial expression that she doesn't love the idea of a student, especially a student, trying to summarize the key points of her work.
Right. Well, that is one way to avoid doing your own actual research, right? So Hugo says, sure. Well, that sounds fantastic. If you have any more work, feel free to send it to me, and I'll pass it along to my student. Otherwise, we can speak next week, maybe after the life and death people have put this into motion.
Yes, that sounds good. I'll be in touch. I'll keep you updated.
Excellent. And then kind of smiles, kind of artificially, and then kind of stands and gestures towards the door and opens the door for you, clearing away some of debris that has rolled around on the floor.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, is there anything that anyone wants to get done this first week?
Well, I could send that email to Barton and do a little, let's say, I don't know if this would be a schmoozy email or something where I try and set it up so that here's the paper. I'll go over it. I'm trying to set, so Hugo's trying to set the situation up so that Barton does all the work, and Claire and I get some credit for doing as little as possible.
You can do a schmooze. Yes.
See how persuasive I am in this email. Hey, 10. Oh, no. Does that include no, I didn't include a modifier. So 10. Excellent.
Okay, so they can give a small contribution to the project now, or they can give a bigger one, and you need to do something for them.
I think, though, I'm the Albatross, not the slacker, so I'll do a little bit of work in order to get my name attached to something big. In principle.
Thing is, they answer back your email, and what they request is that you take over their classes for this week. Because they say, we need to accommodate a lot of people, and I have a lot of meetings, so I'm going to have to dump a few classes, And it's very early intro work. Can you do it for me while I focus on the project?
So teach their classes this week in addition to my own, and then this project, this joint project plan takes off. That's tough. That's a tough call. Sure. What could go wrong? Teaching classes I'm not prepared to teach.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Well, the good thing is that this is actually bodes well for the project, and you already tick 3 boxes that are going to be all of Balton Adler's contributions. So yeah, you already have a lot of contributions there for it. So pretty much the project is on the way to becoming half done. Now you just need to drop more people or the same people to throw more work at it. Yeah. Okay. And is there anything that Claire wants to do to try to get this done this week?
So this is the first week of the semester?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I figure she has to as well in this research project. And I kind of want to roll the teach move just to get a sense of where things stand with her classes as well, depending on how well I do on it.
Okay. So in that case, we have a bunch of time advanced moves to resolve. We're gonna go start with Arthur, that is doing a delve deeper move to actually get some useful data. So you roll plus research, unless you have any modifications to that, which the Workhorse sometimes has.
I don't believe I have. No. Yeah, I'm gonna just roll here. Let's see. That's a 6.
Oof. Okay. So you try to look into it, and you find that yes, there's the usefulness in getting someone that knows something about fossils, because what you are realizing more and more is that this is really not your stuff. You're dealing with demons, not dealing with bones, and you don't know if Claire is the one for it, but you really could use the expertise of someone. And you keep getting from the library these books on archaeology, in arcane history, in whatnot, and you keep bringing these books back. And on the weekend, Alex has prepared you a special branch, and that's when they drop the thing that they clearly been cooking for a while to drop on you. And they say, I got you a position. There is an opening for a consulting position in my company, and perhaps it is time that you look into it. I'm not. We already have this conversation. We already have this conversation. I know. I know. You don't have to take it. All I ask, I put favors to have them interview you first. All I ask is that you please at least go to the interview. Uh, so, what is about Alex Company that you absolutely hate and you definitely will never ever be caught dead working for them?
I mean, they are a consultancy company. That's like the worst thing that I could imagine work for. They don't care about what is true at all and just do whatever the customer pays them to say. It's exactly why I started researching while because I didn't want to work in that kind of place. But I think, as Alex says that, Arthur just nods and says, "Well, I see you've been patient with me, and although there is no way I will take this job, I will definitely go to the interview for you. But we have had this talk before. I mean, if I fail doing this research that I'm doing now, maybe I will consider doing something else. But I have worked so hard for this. You have to understand.
Why don't you give me a smooth and you have advantage, because this is not something new. So you have advantage, you roll with 3 and you keep the 2 best.
Okay, so let's hope that the other ones are better. That's wait, I have that's a 6, I guess, because I have -1 in charisma, right? That's smooth.
Okay, so Alex seems delighted, and you have a pretty blissful weekend. They are on their best moves. They seem to be on the peaks. And the problem you realize later is when you take a look at their working computer, is that they heard you, but they got the wrong conclusion from that. They got the conclusion that the problem is not leaving academia. The problem was that maybe their company was not the thing that you are looking for. And you can see that he is calling every contact that he has and is looking into any company that his company has worked for and partners and trying to see positions. You have the sudden realization that that interview is going to be the first of many that Alex is going to ask you to attend. And that Daisy is going to haunt you for the rest of the school year.
Oh, good times.
Okay, so we get to see how teaching goes for the other two. So let's start with Hugo. So do your teach move.
So that's plus charisma, which is +1. All right. Oh my, 13.
Oh, good. So everything goes well. And you mark experience.
Okay. Just mechanically, where are we tracking that? Is that on the sheet? Or, yeah, there it is, XP. Okay.
Yeah.
1.
Good. And next we have Claire.
Okay. So that is a 9, because I have 2 charisma. So
Okay.
on a 7 and 9, still mark experience, but one of your students will visit your office with a complication or difficult question. Okay.
So you mark experience, and it seems like one of your advanced students comes, and it is none other than Raphael Crane.
Okay.
And Raphael Crane, he was attending your seminar, even if you know that he does not need to. And he came here, Professor MacDonell, you always been very supportive of my research and and it's I want to get in one of the research programs here in Pigsmoke, but I cannot believe that I'm being rejected from enrolling in the CBSA junior researcher programs because the dean there is refusing to let me go unless I sell him my soul, because he says that my publication are suspicious and he cannot prove that it's plagiarism, but he thinks that even the doubt is too much. And the professor always been so good. Maybe you can write the devil a letter of recommendation.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's absolutely outrageous that they wouldn't allow you to be part of this research experience. I mean, do they not understand what we're doing here as a school, trying to support our best students? So yeah, I will absolutely write a letter on your behalf. So now I'm trying, as a player, I'm trying to think if I want to go the schmoozing route or the scathing route in terms of the attitude I take in my letter.
You don't have to solve it this week or this session. So
Okay.
this is
Yeah.
just something, a sword
Okay.
of Damocles hanging there that is going to cause burnout if you don't deal with.
Okay.
Yeah, because until you get that letter done, he's going to be annoying you.
Right.
So next, okay, one thing that I did not notice, because for some reason I'm misremembering this wrong, I thought that teaching